Mm, so let me start sharing my screen. Okay, so can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so I do want to ask before we start, have you guys been, are you guys aware that we have a YouTube channel where we keep recordings of our previous workshops from previous semesters?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Has any of you watched any of the workshops on our YouTube channel from previous semesters?
Nope.
Okay, that's okay. So initially I thought that from the coordinators, then they were gonna have, you know, the students watch the workshop beforehand before they joined the workshop today to have you guys, ask the questions and not. But seeing that probably most of you guys haven't watched the workshops from previous semesters, then I will just cover all of the contents today, and then I will spare probably 20 to 25 minutes at the end for you guys to ask your questions. So is that all right?
Yes.
Okay, great. So let's begin. So as you guys can probably see, our workshop today is going to be covering brainstorming and topic selection in academic writing. So, oh yes, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Mia. I am one of the peer advisors for writing here at TIU. Okay. So before we start, I would like to quickly introduce what I do. So I'm a peer advisor for academic writing. So PAW, or PAW for short. So PAWs are students, actually, just like all of you guys, who are trained to provide you with academic writing advice. So all of us are students. We have taken academic writing classes here at TIU before in our first year. And now we are trained to help, new students like you with academic writing assignments. So what we do is that we help you with, improving your writing skills. We help you to check your writing, your essay drafts, like APA citations, formatting. We help you with paraphrasing, anything that is related to, academic writing assignments. And what we do basically is that we provide you with, a fresh set of eyes, a different perspective when we look at your papers to help you kind of improve it. And you can make appointments with us to discuss any, writing-based assignments. So Paul will start, officially start on April 25th. So yeah, so keep your eyes out for any of our notice, because you will probably find yourself, needing a lot of help as, new student writers in the university. And when you do, we're here to help. Okay, so we have a few questions before we start. So back in high school, what were the steps when you were writing a paper? And did brainstorming play an important role in your writing process? So anyone would like to share? Has any one of you, written a paper when you were in high school? Doesn't necessarily have to be in English, in your own language is fine. Would anyone like to share? Okay, so I guess, well, seems like not a lot of us have, been familiar with, writing a paper in high school. So let me actually just skip on to the next slide real quick. So on the screen here, you see all of the steps that is involved in the academic writing process, but they are not in the correct order And so now what I like you to do is to reorganize these steps. So what does the writing process looks like to you in the correct order? So anyone would like to try? Oh, someone asked like a research paper. So yeah. So when we're talking about academic writing, we mostly talking about academic essays and research papers here. Someone also talked, the teacher choose the topic for you. Okay, so definitely topic selection is one of the steps in the writing process. Sometimes it is done by you, so you get to choose your own topic, but sometimes your teacher will give you a topic. But what about the other steps in the writing process? Someone used to do normal essays. Okay. All right. Anyone would like to try? Oh, okay. So we have a response here. So we have brainstorming, topic selection, outline, thesis statement, draft 1 and 2, final draft. Okay, that seems to be a pretty good answers. Anyone else has a different idea? Okay, so seems like there are no other responses in the chat. So let's go ahead and reveal the answer to see if we got it correct. Okay, so here are the steps. So first we have brainstorming, then we have topic selection, then we have thesis statement, then the outline, draft 1 and 2, and final draft. So whoever responded to me earlier in the chat, I think you got most of it correct. So that's a really good starting point. So whether or not you are familiar with the overall writing process, the first thing that we see at the top of the process here is the brainstorming. And that's going to be the first step that we're going to embark on during our academic writing journey, right? And that's what we're going to cover in the first part today of our workshop. Okay, so brainstorming, let's get the definition out there. So it is a technique used to find conclusions for a specific problem by gathering a list of ideas. So basically what you're doing when you're brainstorming is you try to generate new ideas. And here in this context, we're trying to generate new ideas for our essay. So we could be brainstorming for our topic, trying to identify what we're going to write about. We could be brainstorming for the main supporting ideas. Once we have decided upon our topic, then we would be brainstorming for ideas that we are going to put into our outline, right? So some of the tasks that you might find yourself doing in brainstorming is not just all about thinking and coming up with ideas, but it's also more specifically the activities that you're going to do when you are brainstorming is that you're going to be trying to find keywords, phrases, connections, and arguments. And if you're doing research, if you are finding, yourself reading through a lot of articles, sources, then what you're going to do when you're brainstorming is that as you read, you would try to identify common themes or common ideas that pop up repeatedly throughout those sources that might help you to support your main arguments. Okay. And at this stage, brainstorming is a storm. It's not supposed to be organized anyway. So don't worry about how messy your ideas are, because at this stage, what we're trying to do is that we're trying to come up with new ideas. You don't really have to worry about how organized it is, right? So knowing this, I do want to know, how do you guys brainstorm? Do you guys brainstorm on your own, or do you guys brainstorm with other people? How do you guys like to brainstorm? Okay, someone said on your own. Anyone has, experience brainstorming with others? Okay, I have another person saying that they like to do brainstorming on their own. Okay. Oh, mostly on your own. Seems like most of us here like to do brainstorming on your own. Me too. I actually do a lot of brainstorming on my own writing. But sometimes when I'm doing a group assignment, then I would most of the time be brainstorming with my teammates. Like we sit down, we have a meeting, we come up with new ideas for a report or whatever it is that we are doing together. And there are different pros and cons to, individual, like brainstorming as an individual and as a group, right? So when you're brainstorming as an individual, you have, a lot of freedom to come up with a lot of ideas. But the limitations to it is that because you are the only one doing the brainstorming, you have only your own perspective. It's probably a little bit harder for you to kind of explore each of those ideas in detail. Whereas if you are brainstorming as a group, you might have less idea altogether, but each of those ideas, when you're brainstorming with your friends or group mates, you have a lot of perspective to contribute to it. And it allows you to explore each of those ideas, in detail and, develop deeply and effectively. So something like that. Now, other than brainstorming on your own or as a group, when we're brainstorming, we come up with ideas, but we also have to try to take notes of those ideas, right? Otherwise, we're most likely gonna forget it. And here I want to introduce you guys to a few techniques that we can do to take notes of our ideas when we're brainstorming. And the first one, as you can see here, is mind mapping. I think a lot of you guys might be familiar to this. So what you do is, you write out your ideas, your keywords, key phrases on a piece of paper, and then you connect them together using arrows, using lines or branches. And this really works if you are a visual learner and you like to take a step back and see how all of your ideas fits into a big picture of your entire essay, or you want to see how your ideas are connected to each other, then this is a really good method. We actually have two different ways of doing mind mapping. The first one I think a lot of you are familiar with is normal mind mapping, where we start with the big idea in the center, and then we branch out to smaller ideas, to supporting ideas. And this works when you want to produce new ideas, when you have a topic in mind, and what you need to do is kind of explore it in more details. The other way of doing mind mapping works when you have too many ideas and you need to filter them out, or you need to group them up together somehow. So you do the opposite. You start with the supporting ideas. You start with the smaller ideas, the smaller bullet points. And what you do is that you look at them, you connect them together, coming up with a common theme for a few of them. And eventually you reach the center, your big idea in the center. So the two different way of mind mapping will work, in different situations, whichever you prefer. Another way of taking notes of ideas when you're brainstorming is listing. This is actually my favorite way to take notes though. What you do, I think, is pretty straightforward. You list out all of the ideas, you put them into bullet points, and then if you have smaller ideas to support it, you put them in smaller bullet points under those big bullet points. So I think this is pretty straightforward. There's nothing much to it. But there's a beauty in listing as well. I personally, when I do listing and I find that there's some kind of big connections going on between, the main ideas, I would use something like an arrow to connect them together. So it's not just about using bullet points. You can use arrows, you can use whatever it is that helps you kind of visualize how all of your ideas are connected to each other. If you're not an organized person, there's another way you can take notes of ideas too, and it's free writing and free speaking. Basically, what you do is you sit down with your topic, with all of your ideas in your mind, and you either speak it out or you write all of it out. You don't really have to care about your grammar, your word choice, or whether or not your sentence sounds silly or not. You just write it out. And then what's going to happen after that is that you can sit down, you read whatever it is that you have written, and you identify, okay, whether this idea is good that you can use for your draft later, or this might need a little bit more researching, or something else that sounds a little bit silly, and probably you should consider, replacing it with a different point. That works too. And I think this would help if you kind of want to sit down and see whether or not, an idea is something that you are willing to put into your draft. Okay. And if you are something, you are into more of, charts and diagrams, then graphic organizers may work. So as you can see on the screen here, we have like different types of diagrams that can help you to brainstorm for an outline for different types of essay that you're going to write. And I think you guys would most probably encounter this as, a class assignment for your writing classes. So you might find your teacher giving you some kind of handouts with these kind of diagrams for you to fill out, your topics, your thesis statement, your main research questions, and then how you organize your ideas. So this might work for you. So those are what I just mentioned are those different kinds of techniques that you can use to take notes of your ideas when you are brainstorming. So we have mind map, we have listing, we have free writing, free speaking, and we have graphic organizer. Now, what's going to be helpful for you when you are doing brainstorming is asking questions. There are a lot of questions that you can ask here, but I want you guys to focus on what, where, and when. The most, probably you guys would want to think about these first. So for what, you guys can think about questions like, what is the basic problem? What controversy is involved? These questions are going to help you to identify your main topic. Either it is the main topic for your entire paper or a main topic for each of your paragraph. And then you have the where and the when that is going to help you further specify the context or the scope of that topic. So we have where questions like, where is the issue taking place? And then we have the when question, when did the problem develop? When is action needed to address these issues or problems? So the what, where, and when questions is going to help you identify the topic of either your entire essay or the topic of each of your body paragraph and the context of it. Once you get these questions done, you can also think about the whys and the hows, like why did the issue or problem arise? How did the issue or how is it significant? These questions is going to help you to think about the more specific details of your papers. Like when you need to come up with, supporting arguments for your main arguments, for example. So these questions might come into handy. But the important thing to remember when you're brainstorming is you need to ask a lot of questions. Okay, so with brainstorming done, the next step that we're gonna going through in the writing process is topic selection. Now, I know that someone told me early in the chat that, the teacher would choose the topic for them. And sure, that can happen in your writing classes now at TIU, especially for your first or two writing assignments, you would find yourself writing, for a certain topic that your teacher picked out for the entire class. But after those first or two assignments, you probably will find yourself in a position where you get to choose your own topic for your own essay. And you guys would probably be interested in how you can choose like the right topic for your essay. So yeah, how do you decide on a topic and what makes a good topic? So what do you guys think makes a good topic for an academic paper? Anyone would like to share their opinions? So someone said topic must be interactive. Can you elaborate on what do you mean by interactive? Okay, someone said interesting. Oh, someone said problem existing in the society. Okay. Some interesting responses. Anyone else would like to share their thoughts? I think all of your responses are, very, very kind of interesting way to approach this. And I too would like to choose, an interesting topic, something that, we can discuss about amongst ourselves, something that is debatable. I would also like to be reading an academic paper about, a problem that is existing in society, right? Because then it would be kind of easy for you to see why that, paper is kind of important, why we should care about it. So I think all of your answers are like really good. Oh, someone said must not be too narrow or too broad. So I think this is referring to the scope of the topic. And I think this is a very good point. You also want to pick a topic that is kind of manageable, especially considering your writing assignment is most likely going to put you on a certain page limit. So you have to be considered whether your topic is too broad or too narrow for that certain number of page that you're going to get, right? So I think all of these are good answers. And here I would like to walk you guys through some of the steps or some of the factors that you guys may want to consider when you're choosing a topic for your academic paper. So the first thing that you would want to consider is the instructions of the assignment. This is very important because within the instruction, you will be able to identify what rhetorical strategy should your paper be. A rhetorical strategy is just a fancy word for a type of essay, right? So you have types of essay like cause and effect, you have problem solution, you have argumentative, you have comparison. So these are the different kinds of rhetorical strategy, the common ones that you might find yourself writing about. So you need to know what type of essay, what type of paper you are writing first. And then you have to read the instructions of the assignment to see what exactly should your essay paper to focus on. Sometimes when the topic is given to you by the instructor, you will know exactly what the paper should be focused on and what type of essay you should be writing. Sometimes you get to choose your own topic, but it has to be a certain type of rhetorical strategy. So either way, you have to read the guidelines to know what you are required to do, what your paper should be about, how it should be formatted. In that way, those are the first thing that you need to keep in mind when you're choosing a topic. Now, the other factors that you want to keep in mind when choosing a topic is the content area of focus, or rather the context. How so your topic, the first thing is whether or not your topic should be related to your major or what you have studied in class. So maybe right now, for those of you who are in your first or second semester taking the analytical reading and composition class, you might be asked to write essay on topics related to your major, not necessarily what you have studied before, but something that is related to your major. But later on, when you study, the major courses, then you might be asked to write on topics that is specifically related to what you have studied in that class. So you have to take note of those kind of instructions from your instructor. And you might want to keep in mind, your kind of interest, your research interest, or your passion. Like, what is it about, let's say, the economy that you are interested in, that you want to do research about, that you want to write an academic essay about, right? And like I said before, the brainstorming is the first step that you're going to embark on during your writing process, but you're going to find yourself doing brainstorming throughout the entire writing process. So here, when you are brainstorming, when you are trying to come up with a topic for your paper, you can also ask yourself the questions that we have mentioned earlier, the what, when, where, why, and how, to help you kind of narrow down the scope for your topic. So I know that a lot of these early instructions seems a little bit vague. So to kind of make it easier for you to understand, let's look at it from a different perspective. Let's look at what kind of topics that we want to avoid when we are choosing one for an academic paper. So the first point is that you want to avoid topics that you have used in previous writing assignments or is being used by other students in your class. Now, again, you might be asked, you and your classmate might be asked to write an essay on the same topic. So in that case, this might not really matter. But when you choose, when you get to choose your own topic, make sure that your topic is kind of unique from the other classmates. But more importantly, you want to avoid topics that are very recent and wildly uncertain. So an example of this is, let's say you want to write about the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic on the European economy. It really is a good topic for a discussion, for a newspaper article, but it might be a little bit risky to pick this for an academic paper. And the reason is because this pandemic is still happening. And right now, researchers are still having to do a lot of work to find out the impacts of it on, the European economy and the world economy. So right now, things are a little bit uncertain, is a little bit ambiguous, and we might have to wait like a couple of years, 5, 7, who knows, until we have, enough concrete research for you to actually write about it in an academic essay. Another type of topic that you want to avoid is those that cannot be supported with evidence from scholarly sources. So here's an example: the relationship between zodiac signs and the increase of divorce rates in Gen Z. Again, it's a great topic for a discussion between you and your friends, or maybe a blog, but we're writing an academic paper. And the most important thing when you write an academic paper is that everything that you mention, every argument that you bring up has to be backed up with evidence it has to be backed up with reliable evidence from scholarly sources, from previous researches, from previous studies. And while you might find yourself being able to find maybe 1 or 2 articles talking about this topic, it might not be enough. It might not be reliable enough for you to write an entire paper about it. So you want to avoid these kinds of topics when you are writing an academic paper. So what else do you want to keep in mind when you are choosing the topic, when you have a list of maybe a few potential topics to choose from? How do you choose the one perfect topic? So the first thing, which might surprise you, is your personal interest. When you get to choose a topic to write about, you might as well choose something that you like, that you are passionate about, that you feel like you are willing to do research about. Because what's going to happen is that sometimes, maybe in your first semester, you're going to get 2 to 4 weeks to complete like a writing assignment. And then in the second semester, you might find yourself spending an entire semester researching for only one research paper. And so you want to find a topic that is going to keep your interest and your motivation up throughout the entire process, which is why I would like to advise you to think of, what you are interested in regarding to your major, regarding to your study interest, and, see if it's possible for you to come up with, an academic paper topic out of it. But you also want to be careful about your personal bias related to your topic. Sometimes we are very passionate about a topic because it really is related to us. And sometimes that's the reason why we kind of develop certain biases that can affect your objectivity in your papers. So be very careful with topics like this. But that doesn't mean you cannot choose something that you like to write about for an academic paper. Another thing to keep in mind is please be careful about topics that you are unfamiliar with. Like I said, for every writing assignment, you're going to have a certain kind of deadline. Sometimes you get the entire semester to do a research paper, but sometimes you only have 2 to 3 weeks, 4 weeks max, sometimes like that. And if you pick a topic that you are completely unfamiliar with, that you have never heard of before, that you have never been educated about before, then those 2 to 3 weeks might not be enough for you to do enough research on it so that you can write an academic paper about. Sometimes even when you have picked a topic that you are really interested in, that you have studied about before, it still takes you a lot of time to do research, to pick out the right sources, to pick out the evidence, to construct your arguments, your outline from those research before you can actually start writing it. If you pick a topic that you are unfamiliar with, that's going to take even more time, and you might not have enough time to, cover the entire, writing process. And the last thing, as I think one of you mentioned before, is the scope of the topic. You want to keep it manageable, not too narrow, not too broad, because you have to keep in mind that there's a page limit to your writing assignment, or a word limit. Sometimes if you pick a too narrow topic, what's going to happen is that you're going to run out of ideas to write about before you even reach the minimum page limit. If you pick a too broad topic, you might find yourself not having enough page to explore the entire topic. Or you might find yourself having to oversimplify your topic, oversimplify your arguments in order to fit within that page limit. Either way, it's not going to be good. So best thing that you can do is to be very careful about the scope of your topic before you start writing your paper. Now, obviously, when it comes to brainstorming for topic selection, you have, you do the same thing as when you are brainstorming for everything else. You ask yourself questions. So remember the what, when, and where questions that I mentioned earlier. So the what question, what is the basic problem? What controversy is involved? This is going to help you to identify the main topic. So here we have the role of social media. You want to write an essay about social media. So you have your what. You're going to write about social media. But what about social media? It's a little bit vague, right? The role of social media as related to what? Are we talking about the role of social media related to individual users, to business, to government? What about it, right? Which is why we need the where and the when questions to help you define the specific context and the scope of your topic. So here we have the where. Where exactly are we talking about when it comes to social media? So here we pick a certain country or a region, So we have like the country of Tunisia. Okay, so we have the role of social media in the country of Tunisia. Okay, it sounds better. It's more specific. But are we going to talk about the role of social media in Tunisia from the beginning of its time all the way until now? That's going to be a little bit too broad for maybe a 4 to 6 page essay, right? You might not have enough space to cover it. So we might want to stick to a specific period of time to focus our paper on. So here we focus on the when, during the Arab Spring. So there we have it. We have a topic with a very specific scope that is enough for you to explore within the page limit of an academic paper. The role of social media in the country of Tunisia during the Arab Spring. Okay, so here's an activity for you because I've been talking a lot. I want you guys to have a look at several topics now and decide whether or not these are good or bad topics and what do you think could be improved about it. So here, I'll go with like an example first. So this first one, manga use pictures and dialogue to tell stories. This is not a good topic for an academic paper because this is a statement. Like it's a fact, it's the definition of manga, and there's nothing to be argued, nothing to needed to be persuaded about it. So there's nothing really for you to write a paper about. So you want to avoid these kinds of topics that is just based on fact, those kind of topic that is not arguable or not persuasive. Because when you're writing an academic paper, there needs to be some kind of value that you added to the discussion of your topic. If the topic is not providing with you with any kind of issue to discuss about, then there's nothing for your paper to contribute, which is why you want to avoid choosing these kinds of topics. Okay, so the second topic, the recent economic effects of the Industrial Revolution in America. Do you guys think this is a good topic or a bad topic? Anyone wants to try?
Yes, good topic, maybe.
Why do you think it is a good topic? Why do you think it is a good topic? What about the scope of it? Is the scope of it manageable? Is it possible to be backed up by scholarly sources?
Yeah, we can learn many application of the economic effects that we can apply in other countries as well.
So if we were to write a paper about this, then we can kind of contribute something to the discussion, right?
yeah.
Okay, that's a very good point. So I saw someone in the chat telling me that the Industrial Revolution is not a recent thing. It happened around the 1820 and 30s. So I'm not a historic expert, but I think there was more than one industrial revolution in the America. In fact, there have been, I think, 4 of them. The 4th industrial revolution is happening quite recently. So while it being said that this topic is pretty decent for an academic paper, I do also think that it could be improved. So the scope of it is not too broad, not too narrow, clear and expandable, but I think to make it a little bit less ambiguous, then we can add which industrial revolution we are talking about. Is it the first one, the second one, the third one, or the 4th one? And we can also kind of make it a little bit more specific by choosing a certain industry in America to focus in. Are we talking about the service industry, the manufacturing industry? There's a lot of things that we can choose to make this topic even better. Another topic, the effects of hay fever around the world. Do you guys think this is a good topic?
I think it's too broad around the world.
Mm. Okay, so that's correct. It's a little bit of a too broad of a topic for an essay, right? You might as well try to narrow it down to maybe a certain country, or maybe a certain age group, for example, to make it more specific and more manageable for an essay. Okay. So this one, sorry, I actually kind of spoil it by giving away the answers, but I think it's pretty clear that this topic is too vague and it's probably not very appropriate for an academic paper. Are you actually going to be able to find any previous studies or evidence about toilet paper extinction? And furthermore, you're talking about toilet paper extinction in 2030. That's pretty far from now, and we're not very sure if it's going to happen at all. So it's not a very good topic, is it? And last one, the history of mochi in Japan. What about this one? Do you guys think this is a good topic for an academic paper? Someone in the chat. A decent one, but it is not that academic. Well, I think that this topic is something that you, so this is actually a topic that you can write about in a newspaper article or a blog, something that is informative. But for an academic paper, it's not a very good topic, because just like the first example that I gave you, this is mostly going to be based on facts. It's going to be descriptive. And there's nothing arguable or persuasive about this topic. History of mochi in Japan is just history of mochi in Japan, right? So if you write an essay about this, what are you going to contribute to the discussion, to the academic discussion? There's nothing that you can argue about. If you want to make this into a topic that you can write about in an academic paper, you can add something like the history of mochi in Japan and how it affected modern cuisine, something like that. You add a little bit more of a question related to it to make it arguable, to make it persuasive, to give it something to discuss about, to give it something that you can contribute to the academic discussion, right? So that's actually one of the most important things that you should remember about choosing a topic. So it has to be something that you can write about, that you can contribute to the discussion of that topic. Okay, so I think that's the end of my presentation. So before we move on to the Q&A session, just a few quick notes. So like I mentioned, PAW will begin its service on April 25th. And if you want to book a session, please visit our website to book it. And you can book up to 2 slots with each PAW in a day. So here is the link to our website. So just below here is the link to our website. So you can visit that website to check out the resources, the writing help resources that we put up on there, as well as you guys, there should be a link for you to reserve sessions with PAWs. So yeah, you have the time, pay a visit to this website and book a session with us. Okay, so I think that's the end of my presentation. And here is the QR code to the attendance form for today's workshop. Please spend a few minutes to scan it and fill out the form. If you cannot scan the QR code, please send me a message so that I can send the direct link to the Google form to you. Yeah, and once you are done with filling out the attendance form, if you have any question, please go ahead and ask me. It can be related to brainstorming, topic selection, or anything that you want to ask related to academic writing. Oh, you're welcome. Do you guys have any questions before? Well, I will be here until 1 p.m. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Is it automatically informed to my professor that I attended this workshop?
I'm not sure about this because the attendance reports will be made available to the PAW coordinators, and whether or not they go ahead and inform your instructor is, well, their decision. So I'm not sure if this is going to be reported to your teacher, but please fill it out anyway.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Do you guys have any other questions? Okay, is everyone finished with filling out the attendance form?
Yes.
Oh, great. Do you have any questions for me? Oh, I saw there's a question in the chat. When choosing a topic, what should I expect? Well, if you're talking about, well, your academic writing class that you are currently taking, may I ask, are you currently taking the academic writing class 1 or 2? Oh, you're taking AC2. Okay, so if you're taking AC2, then when you are choosing a topic, probably you might be asked to choose a topic that is related to your major. I think that might be a topic That might be one of the requirements for you. Another thing that you want to keep in mind is that the research paper that you're going to be writing for that AC2 class is probably going to be longer. I don't know how long it's going to be, but it's going to be longer than the essays that you have written in your writing class in the previous semester. So regarding the scope for that topic, you might want to pick a topic that is going to allow you to explore in more detail, that's going to allow you to write more about than the ones that you have written about in your first academic composition class. Oh, someone asked what is my major. I'm majoring in digital business and innovations. Oh, and back to the previous questions about, what should you expect when choosing a topic for, your AC2 research paper. Remember what I said earlier about choosing something that you are interested in? Yeah, choosing something that you want to write about, choosing something that you are interested in is pretty important, at least for me, because back when I was taking AC2, I had to spend probably 3 months and a half writing that same research paper. I have to read a lot of papers on it. I have to do outlines for it. I have to write first draft and then second draft on that same exact topic. And lucky for me, I was able to pick a topic that I was interested in at the time. And I was able to, stick with it all the way until the end. So picking something that is within your interest and is related to your major is going to be pretty important. Can you give me an example of a topic on your major? So when I was taking AC2, my research paper was on the role of data analytics in esports. So at the time, my study interest was in data analytics, and I play a lot of video games. I watch esports tournaments at the time. So I was able to combine, my research interest with my personal interest, and I have a topic for my research paper, and it kept me motivated throughout that entire semester, which was a really good thing for me. Yeah, absolutely. No problem. Do you guys have any other questions about topic selection, brainstorming, anything else related to academic writing?
I think I have like some questions about it. So I feel like I always pick a topic that it's like interesting to me, and I think it's too basic. Like small business or like in fashion industry, because I'm taking business economics, and looking back at my AC1 and ART classes, it's hard to find these scholarly sources about that. And I feel like my topic isn't too serious as the others, because the others are talking about like economics worldwide, and I'm taking the simple one. But for me, it's I really want to do an essay that I like, and I'm not interested in economics. Like I mean, like worldwide economics. So I don't know what to choose for this semester AC2 classes. I don't know whether to go like simple ones that I actually like, or the
Okay,
like bit
I
harder.
completely see what you are coming from. Those used to be my concern back in the days too. Just to confirm, are you currently majoring in business economics?
Yes.
I see. Okay, so if you have to choose a topic that is related to the BE major, it doesn't necessarily have to be about economics on like a large scale or anything like that. You can pick something that is more related to business or different industries within the economy. I think you mentioned the fashion business or fashion industry. So your topic could just be anything related to fashion businesses, fashion industry. Maybe you can focus on a specific country that you are interested in, maybe your home country, or I don't know, maybe Japan. So it doesn't have to do like with, economics, something that is too grand or major. It should be something that you can do academic research on. That's more important. So does that help?
Yeah, it helps. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Do you guys have any other questions? We have a couple of minutes left, so maybe I can help answer maybe 1 or 2 questions before we wrap things up. Okay, so seeing that you guys have no other questions, I think we can wrap it up here. So once again, thank you very much for coming to our workshop today. And keep an eye out for future workshops that we're going to be holding on, different topics related to academic writing. So yeah, and don't forget that we are going to start our service on 25th of April. So if you want to make a reservation, feel free to visit our website and book a session with us. Yeah, so I think that's it for now. Thank you very much for coming and have a great semester. Okay, bye guys. You guys.